Is over here though.
It's okay.
Guess I could shut them off, but that would load everything onto one screen.
Nah, you're good. You're good. I'm having to do the same. For those who are logging in, we'll start up here in about another minute or two. And remember, you got to open up the question and answer panel that's near the bottom. Put your questions in. We're also going to be on Facebook Live, so you could put a question in via Facebook Live as well. And Adam and Amanda in the background will get that filled out for us. Get us the questions. Good morning, and welcome to the second of our Stump the Engineer sessions. My name is David Orr. I'm the director here at the Corner Local Roads program and also one of the two engineers on staff. The other engineer on staff, Geoff Scott, is joining me as well. Say hello, Geoff.
Hello, Jeff.
So we did get a few questions this time sent to us ahead of time, but we'd like more. Our goal here is to answer some of your questions. If we can't answer them, we'll write them down and follow up with folks later on or post them on our website. So we certainly want to have some fun, hopefully, and hopefully you'll learn something out of this. So just to get us started, we'll start with ourselves with a nice simple one. I've got myself a little white screen here. We'll see if it can go from here. And I was told I couldn't look this one up ahead of time, so I didn't, but I'll do a sketch here. Okay. So we have an intersection here, and we're going to be putting in a stop sign. Okay. The question was, how far before the intersection can you place the sign? In other words, where should that sign be placed within this range right here? Okay. How far away from the intersection should it be placed? Okay. Oh, just got a note, Facebook Live may not be working today. So for those of you on there, that's the nature of the beast. Sometimes that happens, technology. So we're definitely on Zoom though. So we welcome those on Zoom. So the question is, how long does that look that up? I actually know the answer to that, but as I mentioned in our sign webinar yesterday, and the recording is on our website, you can look this up in the traffic sign handbook. And I got to get lucky. I got pretty lucky. You can actually go right in the sign handbook and it will tell you what you're supposed to do. And so the maximum, let me grab my pen, the maximum distance from essentially the edge of the road is recommended to be 50 feet, okay? So if you got a really wide flaring intersection, I know that can sometimes be difficult. You should try to essentially set it up. What you'd really like to do is put the stop sign in such a place that if you have a stop bar, someone can see clearly in both directions all the traffic that's coming in. And so that's where you would want to put your stop sign, okay? Or yield sign. If you have to go further back because of geometry, then you have to go further back. But remember, as we said yesterday, and we always try to remind folks, documents, documents, documents. Okay, so put down the location, the name of the roads, the date, your name, all the details that somebody would need. Why weren't you able to follow the recommendation in the MUTCD or the traffic sign handbook? Okay, so that was question one that we had. Okay, let me clear this off. Cool. Okay, our next question that we had sent to us, this was a legal question that was sent. And it says, when is a town road not a town road? And it involved a paper street, okay? A road that was part of a subdivision map or a plan that was submitted and approved by the town, paper streets. Now, I don't have my copy of my red book with me, so I would have to pull out my red book to answer that particular question. And I'm actually purposely not going to give a lot of details on that one today, because that's going to be a perfect one. We're going to be holding in mid-May another one of these Stump the Engineer sessions, but rather than stumping the engineers, we're going to do a Stump the Lawyers. We're going to do a legal panel, much like we do at the highway school, about 2 to 3 weeks from now, okay? We'll get you the details as soon as we can confirm the dates, so we can have ourselves hopefully a good time with asking the legal questions. And just like we're doing here, we'd like to get your questions ahead of time. We'll send out some stuff on that so everybody knows about it, and then we'll have a Stump the Lawyer session here in a couple of weeks. But I will give you a brief thing. Essentially, if it's a paper street and the town's never done anything, they have some rights to do work, but they may have to do some extra paperwork to actually take that roadway, okay? And somebody in the question and answer said lawyers have a little bit of laugh out loud. We need them. They're valuable, and they keep us out of trouble. So make sure you know your municipal attorney. And I suspect as we get into more and more of this COVID issue, it's going to become more and more of an issue for us. Okay. Let me highlight that I've answered a question before I forget, because if I don't do that now, I'll never do it later on. Okay. So the next question that I've got here in the list that was sent to us. And again, if you have a question now, please type them into the Q&A portal at the bottom of your Zoom window. We'd really like to see some new questions, because the more we get, the more fun it is actually for everybody. So the next question that we've got is dealing with gravel. How do I know if I have a good gravel? Not much more complicated than that. So Geoff, you want to start with that one?
Well, depends on what you're using it for. Now, if it's going to be a base material, you want to make sure it's clean, it's angular. And when you put it in, you want to make sure it's compacted. If it's a soft subsoil below it, you want to make sure you got some sort of fabric. Keep the moisture out from climbing up into it. Are you doing something? Reading on the side there, David?
I'm finding one of our websites. So it's going to pull something up here.
Oh, okay.
So keep going.
So as far as the good gravel goes, it really comes down to having a clean gravel. Again, that depends on what you're using it for. Again, you want it angular. You don't want it round. Round gravel will roll under force, whether you're compacting it or over the life of a pavement. If you've got it underneath it, it's going to cause it to squirm and move. It doesn't have that interlocking strength. Yep.
And in terms of how to test and look for gravel, on our website, if you go under the technical assistance area and you go down to tech tips, you'll actually see a series of sheets on gravel, tech tips, introduction, recipe for success, a local road material spec for what's a good gravel, how do you test if your gravel's any good, all kinds of fun stuff. And so you can click on those tech tips and get more details about how do you know you have a good gravel. So that's a pretty important thing to know. And we put those on there because it's easier to look those things up and make sure you get what you're asking for, okay? As it says here in this particular one test is worth 1,000 expert opinions, okay? Okay, so our next question that came up, this is from the Q&A pod here. Is there a chart that shows super pave and Marshall mixes for comparison? And this would be from the state spec. Well, actually not anymore, because the state is removing the old Marshall mixes from the state spec. Okay, they had left them in there for a few years where we were finalizing the transition to super pave. So really, everything's going to super pave. There isn't a direct comparison between the Marshall mix and the super pave. Okay. Now, I know a lot of the asphalt companies will still sell you a Marshall mix, okay, the old types 1 through 7, okay? But they're still making it with the same asphalts they use for super pave. All they would ever do, even the previous 4 or 5 years, is take the test for super pave, check them versus Marshall, and say, okay, this particular super pave mix also meets the spec for a type 6. We'll use it there. And the problem was we were getting a lot of mixes that were near the edges. Okay, so it is actually probably better for us to have a simplified super pave mix. And again, we can get you good details on that. In fact, I may go grab a chart here while we look at the next question. In fact, here's one for you, Geoff, while I go find what I'm looking for on the Marshall question. A lot of residents are complaining about water running onto their property. They expect you to magically make it disappear, or better yet, run uphill. Any suggestions?
Reinvent physics. Really, it depends on where the water's coming from. Depends on whether you're responsible for it. If it's collected on your roads and draining off, well, that might be one thing. But if it's coming from back lot or wherever it might be and running through your yard, that may be just the natural course of the water flow. There may have been construction further uphill that had changed the flow direction of the runoff from that site up there and has been redirected. If that's the case, then they should be responsible for that uphill. You're not going to make it run uphill. It's just not possible. Or make it magically disappear unless you can infiltrate it back into the ground. But if you do that, you want to make sure you're going to get it away from your road bed and keep those from getting saturated.
Yep, that's a good point. So, okay, so I've almost found what I'm looking for. Oh, I went too far.
Really depends on where the water's coming from, what you can do with it and who's responsible.
The thing you got to remember with water, if the water is naturally flowing, is coming down the road naturally anyway, you don't have to magically make it disappear. It's natural water. And a good rule of thumb is if it's been there so long that nobody remembers where it came from, it probably is natural. Yes, we can get those lawyers involved again, but it's probably natural. Now, what I found what I was looking for, so let me drag this back here so everybody can see. On our website, underneath the publications page, okay, you can actually find all of the workshop manuals. Yes, we're not able to do the workshops, but the manuals are still there for you. So the one on asphalt paving principles, okay, has a cover that looks like a dump truck dropping asphalt, or could even be gravel. And about, 20, 30 pages in, we talk about materials, and there's the information on the super pave. So you can get all the designations and stuff that you need to order what you're looking for. We can still use the same words. So we're still using base course and binder course and top course and shim. So we're just using some numbers to designate this rather than trying to designate just the name. Okay, so instead of a type 7, you're probably going to either ask for a 12 or an 09 because that's the size in millimeters. You don't have to remember what those are. You just can look them up in the text. Okay, and so we also listed in here the most common designations for some of the local road type applications that are used. Okay. Okay, let's go over here to the next question. A village or a city has a linear speed limit of 25 miles an hour. Do you need a 25-mile-an-hour speed limit sign after every intersecting street in both directions? Okay, now I'm going to assume this is in a village that's got like a 30-mile-an-hour overall speed limit. So this would be a street with a lower speed limit. So, you know, maybe we've got our village grid. The village boundary is, I can even change my color. The village boundary is something like this. This is the main road coming in, okay? And the speed limit is 30 miles an hour throughout the village, okay? But there's a street up here that they've gotten and put in a 25-mile-an-hour limit. Essentially, where do you need to put signs, okay? For a linear speed limit, the first sign is at the beginning of the linear speed limit. You're supposed to have the next sign within 1,000 feet and every few hundred feet after that. But really think about it, what is it that the public needs, okay? So if somebody's coming off onto that 25-mile-an-hour street, they probably need a sign. So you need to place a sign so they can see it reasonably, okay? On the other hand, if there's so many signs it's cluttered, that may not be a good idea either. So in this particular case, depending on how far apart the blocks are, you might need to have one at every single block. But if they're close enough, you might just need to put one where they can see it when they're coming on the main road, okay? And you certainly don't need one. You might need one for the dead end portion, but you don't need one coming back on the dead end portion. People know when they went to their house that it was 25 miles an hour. So there are some standards, again, we can look them up in the handbook, but a lot of times when it comes to something like this, think about it from the standpoint of what's reasonable. How do you inform the driver of what the legal limit would be, okay? And as a reminder, please put your questions in the question and answer box. It's something to be aware of because it's easier for us with questions if you put them in there. Just drag your mouse down the bottom and you'll get a thing that pops up that says Q&A. Okay, let's see here. Somebody had heard a rumor that they were getting rid of some of the cutbacks in the tars that are being used in the asphalt community. Is that true? I did cheat on this one a little bit because I didn't want to wait. I knew I couldn't get a quick answer on it. So I checked with some of our colleagues with New York Materials. And while there's a push and EPA is putting in regulations, it's still technically available. But what's happening is we're trying to find alternatives that would do better, that would still provide some of the same characteristics of penetration and stickiness, as it were, for the tar products, which penetrate really well. But they do track, and there's environmental reasons we don't want to use them. So more and more folks are doing latex-based type products rather than the tar-based products. Our friends with New York Materials are looking up what kind of materials should be recommended instead. They don't have the answer back to us, but as soon as they do, we'll put a quick answer up on our website and get you the information that way. So look for a new quick answer, hopefully within the next few days in that particular area. Okay, let's see what we've got next. It's another one that was a sign question sent to us ahead of time. Okay, let me clear my grid here. Okay, now we have a school. Okay, and our school is on a main road here. Okay, and then we have our school. Okay, and once we open the schools back up, we've got a street that's got a 20-mile-an-hour limit. Okay, along this street right here. Legal limit, okay, going past the school, okay? There's also another street over here that abuts the property of the school, okay? But while the 20-mile-an-hour one has a sidewalk on both sides and has a crosswalk here and maybe a crosswalk at the intersection, there's actually no crosswalk. No sidewalk on or vehicle entrance on Street B, the street down here, okay? Could you have a speed limit on that particular street, the one going to the south? Could you put in a school speed limit in there, okay? So again, we'll grab our little traffic sign handbook and look that up. And, okay. And what it says about school speed limits in the state law, essentially, there's things you have to have. First off, it has to actually be a school, okay? Grade 12 or below, okay? Somebody is walking or biking to school. There is a marked crosswalk somewhere within the zone. Is recommended, it's not required, recommended. The crosswalk is supervised, okay? And there is no nearby traffic control, essentially no way for the students to cross without getting some help. Okay, that's the shoulds. There's some shalls as well, but we're assuming we meet the shalls in this case. The key here is even though there's no sidewalk, even though there may not be a official crosswalk, are there possibilities that the kids are going to cross the street? Okay. If they are, you could probably put a school zone there, but think about that carefully. If, for instance, there was a nice fence that was properly placed that didn't let the kids walk that area, then you may not even want to put a speed zone there. It might actually be a detriment because now people are more worried about speeding than they are about doing the right thing. If, on the other hand, you know kids are crossing, crosswalk or not, you may want to put that speed zone up. But remember, when you're putting up the speed zone, there's two styles. One style has the speed number, and then it has a time underneath. Oh, 7 to 8 in the morning and 3 to 5 at night, or whatever the times are. That's one option. Okay. The other option, which I actually like, but again, there's a cost, is the one with the light that blinks whenever there's a school zone. The reason I like that one is you could set it up so that it goes off on the school days, but you could also then have it blinking when there's a school event. So at night, for instance, you could actually reactivate that sign when everybody's coming in for a PTA meeting, or hopefully soon the basketball games or something like that. But there is a cost because you got to maintain the light. But the advantage of that is it's not fixed as much as if you've got one with the sign underneath. Okay. So those are the ones we've had sit in. If anybody's got any more questions for us, otherwise we'll, Geoff and I will start making some stuff up. We'll have a little bit of fun here. Got any good questions we can throw at them, Geoff?
Not offhand. I'm scattered. I'm in every direction these past few weeks, so
it's Wednesday. I'll help you there. That's always helpful. So let me look at my pile of questions that I've gotten over the time here that have come up.
Wednesday's good to know if you're working for the weekend.
It is good to know if you're working, and it's hump day. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, let me mark that I've answered this particular question. Here's one that would be a good one to talk about, ask the question on. It's a sign one, sort of, but it's not really a sign question. I have $500 in my budget for signs, which I don't think is enough. The town board wants me to pay for it out of the highway fund. Is that correct? We'll see if Geoff can answer this one while I make a note.
No, signs would come out of the general fund.
Actually, yeah, signs come out of the general fund. Signs are a general fund item. So a stop signs, okay, yield signs, speed limit signs, warning signs like curb signs, those come out of the general fund because it's officially the board who has to actually set and authorize and put in the regulation or law that's needed to put those signs up. So those come out of the A account, the general fund. The one exception is if you're putting in a work zone, the work zone signage, because that's authorized by the highway superintendent, that can come out of the highway fund. And normally that would be a town-wide charge, okay? But there are some towns who do it with a town partial charge, but however you need to set it up, okay? We have one in the question pod here. Let's go see what it looks like here. Let me clear that. Can newly paved roads be more slippery than older roads because of the oils in the asphalt coming to the surface? Can newly paved roads be slippery than older roads? That's a good one. We hear that one quite often. I'm going to write the answer down here on the screen. We'll see if Geoff agrees with me. It would help if I actually wrote it in something you could see as opposed to invisible ink. No, but. Okay. So the answer actually is no, but there is a bit of a small caveat. When you first put the road in, the very first few days after you put the road in, there's a little bit of extra asphalt that might be available, okay? First off, it's not that much slipperier than you might think. What it is it's a very thin coating of the asphalt on top of the rocks. And once traffic wears that off, it's fine. But we're not talking making the road unsafe. We're talking a little slipperier, okay? But if you've got proper work zone signage, paid for out of your highway fund, with plaques underneath for the proper speed until such time you've had a day or two for it to finish curing out, you shouldn't have a problem. Because remember, you don't drive on the asphalt. You actually drive on rocks. It's the rocks that give you the friction. So that's why we want good high friction rocks, especially in the surface, okay? Now my screen has completely froze up, so I have a feeling, in fact, I have a bad feeling that I'm not on anymore. But can someone say hello to me and see if I can?
You're not ready. You wrote no bull.
No bull? It's not finished. It's not upgrading. Yep. Yep. My screen is froze up like a stuck pig. But yeah, that happens. But can you hear me at least?
I can hear you. I can see
Oh,
you.
that's good. Okay. Well, that's a good sign. We'll stop the share. See if I can get the share to stop here. Nope. It's not stopping for me either. Tell you what, Geoff, do me a favor. See if you can share the screen and take my screen away from me temporarily.
All right. This ought to be interesting. Share the screen. What am I doing? You cannot share a screen while others are participating.
Well, we'll just have to live with what we've got. That's the way it goes some days. Welcome to technology. So.
Now we can. Uh-oh. Things have been modified. Adam changed my standards.
Oh, okay.
Others stop screen. Do you want to continue? I'll push yes. And just click on one of mine and then back to you, or?
Just click on mine and just get rid of the share screen for now. I'll see if I can get mine to even talk, because if it doesn't want to do anything, we may just have to do the old-fashioned way, just talk it through. So.
All right, so I've clicked back on you. That must be your computer.
Yeah, I think it is my computer. Yep, I'm stuck up like a stuck pig. So, and I'm hearing some weird sounds. So, well, we don't have any more questions anyway, so maybe this is a sign for us. We've done about 25 minutes. I think maybe we'll just call it a day, and I'll figure out what the heck's going on with my technology. Okay, that sounds good to me. Well, thanks for calling in, and hopefully we'll get some more questions from you, and we'll figure out what's going on with weird technology. Thanks for dealing with our fun technology and sending us a few questions. Have yourself a great day. Bye-bye.